what I'm actually going to do is then run around him and get into his room while it's unlocked and get his money chest over here. I'm going to rob the mayor. But in this game, it totally doesn't matter. This is fine to do. Hi, yay, we saved you and we also robbed you, but that's okay, we saved you! I guess he decides it's worth it. Hello, denizens of the internet, and welcome back to Nostalgia Night. This is a series I haven't done in a few weeks, but it's one I greatly enjoy. It's one where we take an old game, we kick back, we relax with it, we put it through its paces, and we see if it holds up, see if it's still good game design, see if it can compete with modern games, see if there's some reason to go back and play this old game from my childhood or from your childhood. And I really enjoy this series. It's a little bit more relaxed for me. You're going to see a lot less editing. You're going to see me kind of umming and ahhing a little bit, and I apologize for that, but it is supposed to be more relaxed. It's a fond nostalgia for me, and I like to do it for two reasons. One, it helps me to, I guess, loosen up my tongue, get used to commentating a little bit more before I do one of the main gameplay sessions. And then also, for me, it's fun because these are games that I have played. These are games that I remember from my childhood, and I remember spending hours with back when, you know, that was the thing you did because you only got a couple of games a year, right? So when you played these games, you really put them through their paces, and you have fond memories. They're a part of your childhood, and this is one of those games. This is NOX, and this is an action RPG, kind of Diablo-like, but it might raise some eyebrows when I say that this was made by Westwood Studios. Yeah, that's right. They're known for Red Alert and Command & Conquer and real-time strategy games, right? Well, yes, but they also made NOX, which is an action RPG, and they put this out in 2000, so only very shortly before they were shuttered, I believe. And this is right around the time frame when Diablo 2 was released, I think. It's a little bit fuzzy back then, but and this game is very tongue-in-cheek. It's not as serious as something as Diablo 2, but it's a huge part of my childhood. I played this game so many times. I would play with my sister as well, and it had a really fun multiplayer mode, although I personally have never really gone online and played it with other people, but they had patched it to have multiplayer modes where you had soccer with combat and all sorts of fun things like that. But this was a single-player action RPG, and so it doesn't have some of those more modern trappings of, you know, being able to play with your friends like you can in Torchlight or Titan Quest or Diablo 3. But it still has a very enjoyable story, and it has some unique things about it that I really enjoy. For one, it's not very serious. I mentioned that as a comparison to Diablo 2 in particular, but really, it isn't very serious. I mean, very early on, we're going to encounter some enemies that, when they die, they fart and let out this poison cloud that has noxious fumes and things like that. It just doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's better for it, honestly speaking. But it had a pretty unique character system. Now, it had 3 classes, and only 3 classes, which, you know, at first glance, that's kind of a knock against the game, you know. Even Diablo 2 had more classes than that, but these classes were very unique. Not just, oh, you have slightly renamed skills, but each one of these characters definitely plays differently. But even more so than that, they actually experience different portions of the game. There are going to be set pieces that each of the characters does see. It's true. And you're going to be still playing through the same story, and you're definitely going to have to complete some of the same tasks, but along the way you're going to see different set pieces, you're going to experience different things, and it's really neat because the game story is written in such a way that when you play a particular character, you only see a particular version of that story from, say, the wizard's side, and you don't, you know, really hear that much about the warrior side. But the story events obviously are taking place on a timeline, and when you play one of the other characters, you see a different chunk of that timeline as it transpires. So certain events will happen, and you know that, oh, I did this when I was playing in this game, and meanwhile, they're talking about something happening elsewhere, and when you play as a different character, you see that as well. And it is rewarding to go back and play as these other characters, not just for the gameplay, but so that you get a more complete idea of the story. So we're probably going to play as the Conjure. Let me just quickly explain kind of what these characters are and the differences. Obviously, a warrior is all about getting up in people's faces and smacking them with, swords and great swords and hammers and whatnot. But he had a lot of skills that enabled him to deal with particular threats. So he could harpoon people to him, he could charge across the map at a really absurd speed and headbutt people and stun them, and he also could let out a war cry that would stun spellcasters around him because, he's range limited up until the very end of the game when he does actually get a ranged weapon. But it just let him deal with threats that he would encounter in the game. The Conjurer was a kind of a mix between the Wizard and the Warrior. It was all about bows and crossbows, but it was also all about charming and summoning creatures. So you could charm wildlife that you would run across, and then you could tell them and give them orders, almost like you were in a little bit of strategy game. You could tell them to escort you, or stay somewhere, or even go hunting, which is what I always did, just go hunt and find something to fight. But it was different, and then you could also summon these little spell bomb guys that you could load up with your spells and then tell them the same commands, go out and hunt or something like that. And so you could use these in boss fights to manipulate and control your enemies as well as fill in for your own weakness, because the Conjurer really was kind of the frailest class out of all of them, because the Wizard had a lot of tools for controlling people. As long as you had mana, you could push them away or summon walls and control your opponents a lot better than the Conjurer could. And the Conjurers using the bows, it was kind of hard to hit people. You got good at it by the end of the game, but you had a decent amount of trouble, particularly in the beginning, landing the hits. And your bow was strong, but if you miss a lot, it doesn't do much. Wizard is, as you would expect, spellcaster. Not very good at close quarters combat. But the difference is here, and because you would go see different set pieces, they didn't have to design the entire game so that it could be played by any character. These characters are going to visit locations that only they have the tools to solve the puzzle. For instance, the Wizard can teleport. So that character can do puzzles that other characters can't. The Warrior could charge through traps, with his headbutt charge skill. Nobody else could do that. So they could design the levels that you play for a particular character, and so when you do get these areas that are unique for your character's story, they fit in. It wasn't like they were abnormal, but they took advantage of the mechanics and they were really interesting to play. And so it made those really enjoyable. Alright, character customization in this game totally doesn't matter. It's there, you can see it, you can change your colors, and you can change what skin color you are, and you can change what hair color you have, and you can change what color your shoes are, and it totally doesn't matter at all. I mean, especially the shoes, come on. But because you put on armor within the first 10 minutes of the game, and you can see the armor on the character's model, so you can't see the clothes. The only one that matters is for the Conjurer, the pants, because some of the time you're wearing just these leather tunics that don't have pants. But other than that, if you're a warrior or whatever you're wearing, plate mail, if you're playing as a wizard, you have robes. So the clothes color doesn't matter, and really, we're just going to skip this just to get to the gameplay.
When following your destiny's particular path, the way of the Conjurer, a discreet and undetected arrival is more often the best policy, lad. Here, at the abandoned manor mines, you'll find a tunnel which takes you into the very heart of the village of Ix. Once there, you must find the Master Conjurer of Ix, Aldwin. I'll bring you no further, lad. Too many prying eyes the closer we get by air to the village of Ix. Follow the tunnel which leads to Ix. Find my old friend Aldwin. He'll help you if he can. Take this staff. Forest beasts will heed its bite should they threaten. Careful as you go, lad.
So, this game is available on GOG.com, and of course their GOG Galaxy client. Though I must mention that if you do try to run this through the client, I had to go into the folder where the game is stored, and I had to tweak some of the compatibility settings and turn off visual themes and that sort of thing to get this game to run well. And I do also have to apologize because you're going to see black borders around this game. I tried so many different things to try to turn those off. I tried running it in Windows. I tried tweaking the color settings. I tried using borderless gaming. I tried using command line parameters. I tried everything I could to get this game to run in a modern resolution, and I just could not do it. I could get close, but whenever I did, the game would use these false colors, because this game is originally 8-bit and 16-bit color, which is pretty bad. 8-bit color is 256 colors, so, bad. We're running in 16-bit color mode, obviously. But, and I just couldn't get it. The game would go, magenta if I managed to run it in a non-standard resolution. I don't know why. I don't know what technology they were using at the time. I know this is based on Direct Draw, but I don't know the details of that and how that compares to Direct 2D, which is what's more common now. But, there's going to be black bars around this. Just sometimes when we're playing these old games, that's going to happen. I can't change that. So the story in this game is you are 1980s trailer trash. I'm not even kidding. The intro actually starts with you in a trailer, and you're yelling at your wife, she's yelling at you, you're sitting there in front of the TV popping beers, whatever, and all of a sudden a portal opens up in your TV, and you get sucked in along with your TV, and you land on an airship, and it turns out that the person who actually opened the portal and summoned you in is from this world of NOX, and it's actually the villain, but wasn't aware of you, didn't want you, actually wanted the gem rock thing you had on top of your TV, which turns out to be this really powerful artifact in the world of NOX. And so now they have that, which is a little bit of a problem. And this world is one that is just emerging from a long, drawn-out war with the Necromancers. And the Necromancers were this powerful guild of, well, Necromancers, obviously, and they took over. They won the war. They completely obliterated the armies of the world, and, well, that would have been the end, except for the hero Jandor, who gathered up these powerful artifacts, put together the Staff of Oblivion, and wiped out the Necromancers. And that would have been the end of it. He decided, this artifact is too powerful. They broke it up into pieces, handed one to each one of the realms, and then he disappeared. Well, turns out he spared a small child. And she has grown up and has turned into a necromancer herself and is now trying to return to the ways of her forebears and is recreating the Necromancers Guild, drawing people to her side, and is starting to take over again. So, just to give you a little bit of foreshadowing, we're probably going to have to put that staff back together. Well, you don't know that, of course, when you land on this dude's airship. You just know you've just been sucked out of your living room and you really want to go home. But, of course, people don't know how to send you back, and so you pick a particular character, class to play, and then the airship captain drops you off at the home for each one of those character classes, and then you go from there. So this airship captain, he's a curious character. He's a reoccurring character that keeps coming back. And he does the opening narration for the game, as well as before each chapter. And he does a good job. I like this character. So here we are in the world of NOX. And this is an action RPG. We can just flail around here and just flail. But you can run around here, and you'll notice there's this really neat vision system where it's doing raycast from your character, and that's controlling what you can see and what you can't. And that was really unique at the time. I mean, for a 3D game where you're playing in first-person perspective, of course you get that automatically. But for these top-down games, I mean, that was pretty much unheard of to have a vision system in the game that realistically modeled what the character that you were playing as could see. And so, that was unique at the time, and it does a good job of playing with the mechanic. There'll be places where you can look through a window and you can see something and you can either shoot it, or it tells you the pieces of the puzzle that you need to know to be able to progress, which is something that was, pretty unique at the time. I enjoy it. There are times that it's a little bit annoying when you're running in a room that has a lot of pillars or something, and they're preventing you from being able to see clearly, but you know, especially down here in the caves that we're in right now and other dungeons, it's really, really nice that you can't see for free. You can't just automatically see your surroundings. So, and it's updated in real time. So, something that you used to be able to see and now you can't, of course, it takes that into account. So we're playing here as the Conjurer, and the Conjurer does have access to spells. I have these little pixies that are flying around me, and they'll home in on enemies and attack them for a little bit of damage. And they won't do very much damage, and you would think that that wouldn't be very useful for very long, because as you can see, the spider just took, 1 point of damage to kill. But the spells in this game can level up. As you find secrets and you go to shops, you can buy additional copies of the spell, and each time you do, it will level up. And so it will do more damage, and it will become more effective. You might get more pixies, for instance. So pixies are really good for cleaning up kind of the trash mobs that you run into in the beginning of the game. It helps against swarms, and especially once you have more mana later, you can cast this for relatively free. The blue crystals that you've been seeing, like right over here, those are mana crystals that you can stop at, and you can fill up your mana with them. They're almost like recharging mana batteries. So frequently in boss battles, the positioning matters a lot, not just in terms of dodging his spells, but being able to recharge your own mana and cast whatever spells you need to is a big part of the battle. Now, obviously not for the warrior, but this is an aspect of the game that is really interesting and adds to the dynamics of the spell-based combat. You're not just chugging potions. You're going to be running from these crystals to the other crystals. You're going to be draining them. You're going to have situations where you've drained all the crystals around, but you really need more mana. And so you're desperately trying to run from crystal to crystal to crystal, trying to get enough mana as these mana batteries slowly recharge. Now, obviously, I have played this game before, so I know that secret is there. You can just push this out of the way and drop down in the hole. But there are a decent number of secrets in this game, and some of them, none of them are really game-breaking. You're not going to find, the ultimate artifact of doom. But there are ones that if you don't find, you may not get access to some of the spells. You may not be able to level them up all the way or something like that. And so it definitely is worthwhile to explore and get these secrets. And plus, who doesn't like finding secrets anyway, So, this is kind of a tutorial dungeon here. Obviously, these enemies are incredibly easy, but at least it doesn't start us out killing rats, right? Right? There are rats in this game, but they're not enemies. They just run around, and you chase them around and try to kill them. I think there's maybe one quest in the game to kill them, but, we can forgive the game for that. So there are actually quests in this game. There's not just this running around in the main storyline. There are actually some minor quests, but they aren't going to push you. You're not going to struggle to complete them. As long as you're doing normal gameplay, you are actually going to do all of the side quests, and it's recommended to do so. So now we've got some armbands. Now we just need some pants and a hat, and then we'll be good. So, I mentioned the Conjurer being able to summon monsters. We haven't seen that yet, but we will very shortly. You'll get the ability to, as you encounter monsters and you fight them, you learn about them, and eventually you can get a scroll. And if you have the scroll for that monster, then you can go ahead and summon that monster. And you'll see a little cage interface open over here. And as long as your cage is empty, then you have room for more summons. And these summons you can give orders to. You can tell them to go out and hunt. And they'll go out and hunt down monsters on their own.
Huh? Welcome to Ix, stranger. If you're here for the mayor's archery contest, go on in.
So, there's this archery contest going on, and this is...
What is your goal, do you remember? Aldwin is your goal. You cannot undertake your sacred conjurer studies without him. To find Aldwin in a village of conjurers might require getting to know the village better, so it knows you, so to speak, eh? It wouldn't hurt to get to know the mayor, since you need his permission to leave Ix when you're ready to go. But above all, keep your mind on the goal, lad. Aldwin. Find Aldwin.
So I mentioned this game being very tongue-in-cheek. And you'll actually see that here. There's this necromancer that's running around, and people are just starting to get to know that these necromancers are in fact a problem again. And I mean, okay, there's this necromancer that's trying to reestablish the necromancers and take over the land, And she sends this necromancer here to spawn some spiders to go into the mayor's house. I mean, if I'm trying to take over the world, that's probably not my choice of actions here. But the villains in this game make the classic villain mistake of, they run into you once and they're like, oh, you know, okay, you're kind of a threat. Okay, I'll send my little underling after you, and the underling, of course, dies at your hands, and then, oh, surprise, they see you again, and they're like, okay, we'll send this slightly more competent minion after you, and, oh, well, you know, okay, so you deal with them, and then, so they see you again, and they're like, gosh, you know, alright, you, my trusted associate, you go ahead and handle him, and I'm just gonna walk away, and sure enough, you deal with that, and it's like, you know, after, you know, a couple times, you would think they would decide, you know, this guy's a problem. Maybe I should just deal with him right now, get it over with, instead of being like, you know, I can't take the 10 seconds necessary to deal with this threat that's been killing my underlings. It's really kind of stupid. Okay, so here's the shopkeeper, and this game does, unfortunately, have items that break, and I'm not going to bother to repair the staff because we're going to find better shortly. But the reason why I say unfortunately is because as the warrior, you get all of this really cool gear. You get these great swords and this huge armor, and it costs a ton to repair. And monsters in this game do not respawn. So there is a fixed amount of income that you can get over the course of the game. And let me tell you, you run out. Alright, so I think we have to talk to this guy, if I remember right, because we wanted to take part in that archery contest. Because right now, I haven't actually run over to anybody, but we're locked into the town. We can't leave. Because of the necromancers and whatnot, they're not letting anybody out of the town. So we have to kind of prove ourselves that, oh, okay, maybe you really can handle yourself out there. Despite the fact the airship captain dropped you off and he vouched for you, you know, but... So he'll sell us a bow for 100 gold. His name is Morgan Lightfingers. I know this bow is stolen. I'm still going to do it anyway. And I think as soon as he walks out of your sight, he's gone. Yep. So, let's just say I think you see him again, and I think he's in prison. So, we'll just go in here and raid everybody's houses. You can do this in this game. There's no repercussion for destroying the entire town here. It's not Skyrim or something where you have to worry about who you're stealing from. In fact, we can actually go over here into the jail, if I remember right.
Welcome to X. Stay out of trouble.
And I think... Yeah, you can run inside these jail cells. In fact, I think what happens is you actually get locked in one of these jail cells. In one of the characters, though, so not the conjurer. And you can break out of the jail cells. But one of the reasons that made this game so much fun was... Okay, yes, for its time, it was this kind of light Diablo game that... was very tongue-in-cheek, and you did have this different experience if you went back and played it with different characters. You got different story events, and that was really enjoyable, as, you know, games back then didn't always do that. But also, this game has some absolutely ridiculous skills, and some really fun opponents to go up against. It's got good map design, although there's a few areas of the game that kind of do drag on a little bit. There's a section with some tombs that seems like it was going on forever. And I also have to call out the very end of the game, because the end of the game, when you do actually fight against the necromancer, she's really, really, really hard. I have never been able to do it without cheating. Because she has this spell that just like instant kills you if it hits you. And so you're constantly running around. I've honestly never even really taken the time to. It just doesn't sound enjoyable to me, so I don't bother doing it. And I've still enjoyed this game so much, even though I've never actually technically completed it without cheating. I did actually cheat when I went through before. So if we go over here and talk to him, he says, you can't leave. We don't give you permission to. And so we'll get permission to here shortly, but we have to go save the mayor first. Because he won't talk to us, just say, yep, you can leave. So I really do want to be able to buy these spells, because spells in this game level up. I believe there's 5 levels for each spell. Although some of them you're never going to find more than one book for. So, if I can get this book now, that means when I encounter it later, it'll bump me up to level 2 instead of being level 1. And some of these skills are really good skills to be able to learn. And here are these scrolls I was talking about. For everybody else, the other 2 characters, these scrolls just mean you do more damage. For the conjurer, though, that means you can summon that creature. Now, a wasp isn't all that entertaining or exciting, so I don't care that much, but...
Oh, it's a disaster. Spiders are Mayor Theogrin's...
Okay, we could listen to all these characters, but he tells us to go up here, and we have our first small dungeon in the game.
Stand back. I'll handle this. I make a good living charming wolves.
So this is where you get introduced to the concept that you as a conjurer will be able to charm and tame the animals in the environment as well as summon them. And he'll even let you buy the wolves, I believe.
My name is Henry.
I think you can go over here and you can buy them. Maybe you can later, or maybe as one of the other characters. It is completely pointless to do so, they die instantly.
Sorry, mate. The bridge is washed out. Only way across the stream is there, through the urchin den. But if you choose that route, mate, keep your guard up. The urchins stole my best boots when I was bathing. If you bring them back, mate, I'll teach you a damn fine spell.
So the little touches in this game are great. And that is to the extent of these secrets, but also, for instance, these fish that are swimming around. In most older games, those would be completely static. If you were playing something like Baldur's Gate or something like that, you'd never be able to interact with these fish. But in this game, you know, these fish are real creatures. If I had a spell that could, like a poison cloud or something, that I could cast, it would kill the fish. Same with the frogs, same with the other creatures in the game. And the little touches, like the lighting effects, and just funny points in the dialogue and things like that. These elevators, I love that. They're plants, and yet they're actually elevators. Alright, so here we are in the first dungeon, and it's just a very, very easy dungeon. It says urchins that we saw before, and they just run from you and try to throw rocks at you, and then they do pathetic damage. But it's going to give us a basic introduction to how to do combat in this game, also known as running up and hitting people. But it does serve as a basic introduction, as well as it serves as that little bit of tutorial that you don't get because each of the characters has a different starting environment. For instance, as the warrior, you go through this trial proving grounds, and you have to prove that you can survive it, and you are the only one to do so. Everybody else who runs in just immediately dies, and they're really surprised when you come out. But it's, you know, obstacle courses, and it's, you have to dodge moving barriers and all sorts of annoying things, and you do, of course, and that's how you prove yourself. And then for the wizards, you go into the Magic Academy, and you have to, you know, go and find where some wizards have accidentally turned your teacher into a frog, and that sort of thing. Like I said, this game isn't actually that serious. Alright, so these guys are behind there. That's absolutely no problem for us, because we have this handy-dandy spell. Assuming it will go in there. There we go. We'll actually be able to get in there here in a few moments. We'll find the key that lets you get in there, and you get a little bit more gear. We're still going to want to do that archery competition. In fact, I'm wondering if I've already missed my opportunity to do that. Come back here. So there is a map in this game, if you press the tab key. So you can see this dungeon is just very straightforward, and it's not going to be anything too deep. But I have a feeling that we're going to continue to play this game over the course of a couple nostalgia nights. Again, this is just an opportunity for me to kick back, relax, talk to you guys, maybe give you some channel update news, as well as just enjoy the games of my childhood all over again. Okay, so now we have the Urchin Beast Scroll, but we do not have the Charm skill, so as of yet we can't use that, and that's another reason why I didn't bother with that Wasp Scroll. There was no point in me doing that yet. As a conjurer, we also have access to these little, like, trap guys. You can load them up with spells, and they will go out and act just like your minions do. You can use them to hunt for monsters and whatnot, and you can cheese some bosses that way. But these little minions, you can use the same spells that you do, and so you can have little heal bombs, or you can have meteor bombs, or whatever you decide to make. And each of these gives some some capacity to deal with a particular threat that you're facing. So, for instance, some monsters might be particularly problematic. There's one boss in particular I'm thinking of that you can preload up with these spells, because it's the first really hard boss you encounter in the game. It's the first real necromancer you ever have to fight. And you can load up with these little spell bombs and tell them to go out and find the guy. And he can teleport around, so the ability for them to hunt him down is better than just relying on the normal, you know, oh, so let's summon a bear or something like that, because he just fried. Whereas those spell bombs, if he fries them and he kills them, their spell bombs go off. So they might summon in more meteors, they might summon in these little pixie swarms, they might summon in, they might poison him, some other effect that will apply to him that gives you an advantage. The wizards have a similar thing. They have a, here we go, some better gear here. They have a trap that they can place down, but the wizard is so strong normally that you don't really have much use for the traps, except possibly when you start going after the weirdling, which is one of those artifacts on the staff that was broken up years ago. And in fact, yes, you can probably tell where this story is going. The wizards now have, or the necromancers now have this artifact that was in your house, and she's now really powerful, and you have to go out and you have to reconstruct this artifact that this hero of long ago built. And if you do, then of course you can use it against the necromancer, and it is a very powerful weapon. But you can tell where that's going. It's a little bit awkward because the necromancer has one of the parts, you know, the one from your house. Would have been useful if you could have held on to that, but no such luck. So these are some of those mana crystals. So let's go ahead and drain those, and you'll see that they drain in color, but there's 3 here, so I could have recharged at the other ones, and then over time this one will regain its mana, and I could use it again. Yep, you can see it getting a little bit brighter. So this is a little crossroads. This is the gateway to the Temple of Ix. I believe that's chapter 7. That's when you go after the weirdling. Oh, here's the cemetery, which is where the warrior goes for one of their introductory quests. And we have to go up here because there's this legendary conjurer that we're trying to ask to come take care of these spiders in the mayor's house. Yeah, because, you know, that's a serious, serious problem. Oh, if I remember right, you can totally swipe the guy's cape or something like that. Maybe that's one of the other characters. There's something you can do. You can cheese this guy, and you can get some of his really neat gear.
Greetings. I am Master Conjurer Alwyn, and you are sent by the captain, eh? Well, there is indeed room for one more apprentice, but you must pay 30 in gold for your charm creature spell. Do you accept my offer?
So I wonder if anybody has ever clicked no on this. But we're going to go ahead and do it. Now we have Charm Creature, and now we can summon creatures as well as charm any ones we encounter.
You must stay nearby when charming a creature. If you move too far away before the charm has set, take the elevator down to the cellar.
I think we can summon. We might not be able to summon yet, but now we have a summon spell. Oh yeah, you can raid this guy's house. There you go. Now we have a cape. See why I said your starting clothes don't matter? I guess your pants color does for this guy, but some of the other classes, it really doesn't matter. For the warrior, there's no way you're going to see anything that's left from your original character. So for some reason, we take the underground passage back. I don't know why. Oops, I was probably supposed to charm that guy. I guess I should actually charm these so that I can say I did it. Let's just charm this guy, and now he's ours. So I'm going to tell these guys to go hunt. They're going to go hunt for any other monsters to kill, but spiders aren't exactly the best. They have 1 hit point. But he'll fight for us, and we could actually use him, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to go through and slaughter all of these, because again, they only take 1 hit each. And if I remember right, there's a trap up here where you get a few more, but oh, too late. But you know, this is easy to deal with. There's no reason to worry too much about this. No, there wasn't. I thought there was a little wall that collapsed that had a bunch of spiders in it. Oh. Let me up. And this lets you up in the wizard's house. Why the wizard couldn't then go to the
We sell only the
spellcaster's house or the conjurer's house, I don't know. But now we should have enough money that we can actually afford these spells. So poison, I'm trying to remember what that does exactly. There was a way to tell. Is it this? Wow. Awesome. Yeah, why don't we just buy both of them? I don't feel like there's a reason not to at this point in the game. These are ultimately more useful than being able to get a few more, like, fire arrows or something. So, vampirism. And poison. Alright, so we have multiple spell bars here. You'll notice we can scroll through them. As the conjurer, we don't really need to do that too much. Not like the wizard does. The wizard has to be able to switch between a lot of spells. We're going to rely on a few spells for the most part. So let's tell this guy to follow us. And now we get to go to... Oh, we gotta go turn that guy's boots on. Hold on, Mayor. I gotta go turn in the guy's boots. Because he teaches us a spell. He
Me boots. I never thought I'd
teaches
see 'em
us
again.
stun.
I'm eternally
Again, this is one of those spells that's
Here's
really
a spell.
good in one of those traps. But it's not that good on its own. You're not going to be casting that a lot because you just have better spells that you're going to be using. But if, for some reason, we go ahead and make some of those little hunter trap guys, we could...
The mayor is still held up in his chamber.
put stun in them and then kind of bomb a hard foe with them to keep him repeatedly stunned and susceptible to more of the traps. Alright, yes, we're here to solve the mayor's spider problem. We'll handle it. Hi, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we'll handle your spiders. Why the village guard couldn't do it, or any of the other conjurers, or whatever, but yeah, we'll handle it. I'll just charm the spider over here, and if I remember right, there's another spider, so we can charge this one, and if you're fast enough, got him. You can get this big Black Widow-y type spider here as well, and you'll notice that actually takes up 2 slots in our summons cage up there on the top right. Alright, well, he's locked himself in, so let's go around over here and talk to him. And he'll decide, okay, it's safe to come out now, despite the fact you have 2 spiders walking around behind you. Well, actually, no, he wants us to get rid of him. Okay, so now we will.
You did it?
And what I'm actually going to do is then run around him and get into his room while it's unlocked, and get his money chest over here. I'm going to rob the mayor. But in this game, it totally doesn't matter. This is fine to do. Hi, yay, we saved you and we also robbed you, but that's okay, we saved you! I guess he decides it's worth it, and in fact he gives us some more money anyway. But now we actually have permission to leave the town, so we can go elsewhere in the game. But before we do that, I want to come over here and do this archery contest. I have a bow now, which I acquired from Morgan Lightfingers through completely legitimate sales, might I add. I need to remember how to do this. I know some targets are going to come up here. Need to equip it. There it is. Alright. So, archery in this game, there's 2 arrow weapons. There's a bow and a crossbow. And a bow has a wind up as you draw it and release the arrow. And the crossbow has a instant shot, but then a reload after it's up. So I'm going to hold the shift key here, which is going to keep my character still and prevent him from running. And then you don't have to do that to fire the arrow, but it actually is a good habit to have, because if you're running around in a dungeon and there's some pick-upable, like an apple or something, your character would run over to it instead of shooting. So it's a good idea to use the shift key whenever you're doing archery, just so you always stay still and go ahead and fire your arrow, regardless of what you click on. And obviously we shot all the targets there, and we win! Yay! An extra 50 gold. But the real deal here is a little bit of experience as well. And I think you get all of your arrows back as well. Okay. So at this point, we're already pretty much done with this town of Ix. There's really not much more here we can do. Okay, so at this point, we're ready to leave the town, and I think that starts the next chapter where we go to the mana mines. But it's worth running around here and seeing if there's anything worthwhile to spy. Troll Beast Scroll. Trolls are annoying. It would be nice to be able to banish them, because when they die, they pass gas. And there's a poison cloud in the area. This is a completely natural biological process, whereby, you know, creatures decompose this way. It's a normal process. But it would be handy to just be able to banish them.
Your gold is always welcome here.
We could also potentially buy some of these arrows. I think I will buy the regular quiver, just because I like the arrows, and I like being able to use ranged combat against most foes, particularly things like those trolls and whatnot, that I don't buy the scrolls for.
Wild beasts have invaded the mana mines, threatening many workers. One from our ranks must go, take charge, and tame these abominable creatures.
I can't help but feel that if they had anybody else to send, they would send them instead, but he says one of our ranks must go, but there's no other conjurers around, otherwise we wouldn't have had to deal with the spiders
I
in the
have an
mayor's
uneasy
house.
feeling about the timing of this violence at the Mana Mines, lad. Brutal attacks against our miners by strange creatures, immediately halting production just when we got it up and running again. Our hour of need is nigh. Drive out the creatures, lad. Save the captured miners, and get back here in one piece.
Alright, well, I wanted to give a little bit of a channel update while this is going on and while we're playing here. That's one of the perks of doing Nostalgia Night is, well, you know, while we're playing, and this is an older game, so the gameplay might be simpler, it might be games that you're familiar with, and it's more casual anyway. I feel like I can take a little bit of time away from commentating on the gameplay and talk a little bit about channel news and updates. So, as you might have noticed, there has been a drop in the quantity of videos on the channel in the past, probably 2 weeks. And that's entirely due to scheduling conflicts. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, we ran into an issue where I didn't get as much time in the studio as I was expecting to. And normally I would get, you know, several hours over the course of the week to spend in the studio. And the past 2 weeks I really haven't had that opportunity. So as you might know, I record all of the video pretty much on one day out of the week. Sometimes I do get an extra day or two, maybe an hour here, an hour there to record, but most of the content that goes up on the channel is all recorded on one day a week. And those are Wednesdays. And well, we didn't get that really. We did get some Wednesdays, but we didn't get as much time as we expected to, and so largely just, you know, ran out of content that was recorded in the studio. And I'm still trying to tweak that studio and get it to be better sound quality. I'm still not entirely happy with that. I have a good quality microphone, but the acoustics in the room are pretty bad, and it does mess with my voice. You can probably tell that I'm on the portable microphone today, and instead of the studio microphone, and you know, I think that's okay, because it's good to compare the audio environment that I'm in right now. If you aren't aware, I am actually recording this in the back of my wife's car. Yeah, I'm not kidding. The sound dampening in here is sufficient. You don't get background noise, and my voice actually, weirdly, even though this is a less dynamic range microphone, you know, you don't pick up the nuances in the voice as much with this microphone, it actually winds up sounding a little bit clearer than the studio microphone. The studio microphone picks up a lot more detail in my voice, but I get this kind of muddying of my words a little bit. And I think it's entirely due to the acoustics of that room. My recording style traditionally has been to speak very loud and have the microphone a little bit further away. Force myself to enunciate. And I think that's a noble goal, force myself to enunciate. But it wasn't really all that much clear. It was some. We had less instances of those mushy S's. But it's actually clear on this microphone that I'm using here in a car. And so I think it's actually the acoustics of the room. And I actually have some dense foam. I'm going to see if I can't build a cage for the microphone to sit in so that it doesn't pick up any of the reverb from the side walls or from the back. Doesn't really help from the wall behind me, but maybe that will be sufficient to kind of clear up that audio and get that a little bit nicer. It's pretty annoying that I have a nice microphone and just the room that I'm in, and it's just a reality. That's the room I'm going to be recording in, isn't really the best. I'm surprised by how well things sound in the car. I'm wondering if I should just bring the studio microphone out here and record in the car. But the reason why I say the videos, we have that drop in quantity, is because I don't have a gaming laptop. So that means I can only play, 2D games, or I can do post commentary on games I've already recorded. But I can't actually just come out here and play whatever I want. And so, it was a drop in quantity, and personally I feel like a little bit of a drop in quantity, or quality. There was a drop in quantity, and personally I feel quality as well. And I wasn't really happy with that. One of the perks of having a small channel that I don't rely on for, my living is I can be picky, and you guys are okay if I don't post a video in a day. If I was a large channel and this was my source of income, that's a serious problem. I need to keep the audience entertained. You hear about people that, they just 2 days go by without a video and they're like, unsubscribe. And you guys don't do that.
You're not going to find anybody around here with
right now there are
prices.
7 of you, so, But I guess my point is if I take time to make sure that the videos that I'm putting up meet my own quality standards and I have to skip a day to do that, I think you guys are just fine. Other channel news, just the absence of $5 Friday. I like that idea. I want to revisit the idea, but I don't think that I introduced it at the right time on the channel. That was something that I feel like a larger channel would be able to support quite well. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a fun idea, and I look forward to doing it again. But right now, the fact is, most of the views on my channel are driven by YouTube searches. Searches for particular games, and then looking up the people that are playing those games. So nobody's clicking, not nobody, very few people are clicking on my videos just because I recorded them. So who's going to click on a video where I take a look at 2, random games, some of which might be a little bit older, and compare them and pick a winner? Who's going to click on that? And the answer is really nobody. I think in the 2 weeks I did do, I had maybe 1 view, maybe, and that was it. And so if you click on the videos, you'll actually see there's more views there, but that's me, where I'm going in and I'm putting comments on the videos, or I'm editing annotations or something like that, and that actually registers as a view when I do that. So yeah, I think there was 1 view on those videos. Nostalgia Night really doesn't have very many views either, again for the same reason. Who's going to search for and click on a video for some 20-year-old game, right? In this case it's 16 years old. So nobody's going to click on that. Nobody's searching for that. Nobody's going to find this video other than the people who are subscribed to this channel. And again, there are 7 of you, so. But I still want to do it because it's fun for me. It's more relaxed for me. $5 Friday was the most difficult videos I have ever produced. There were tons of edits. I had to compress a lot of video footage down into a very tight time frame. I had to pick segments that either I could match different audio with to interesting gameplay, or I had to find ones that had a mix of both interesting commentary and interesting gameplay. And it was difficult. I mean, I spent a lot of time, and it's something I couldn't do right now when I have less time. Nostalgia Night is much more relaxed. I don't bother cleaning up the audio as much. I don't bother cleaning out the ums and ahs as much. I'm sure you've noticed that. I apologize for that. And I just kind of take the rambles as I go and just let them go, because it is more relaxed. And if I rattle on for an extra minute or longer than I think I should, that's okay. I still like Nostalgia Night. I'm still going to do it whether people watch it or not. But if you do, I'd like you to hang out and tell me about your memories of playing games, and any recommendations you have for finding an old game and putting it through its paces. Again, these are videos that nobody except you guys are going to find. If you are watching this, then you're probably one of the people in that audience that will find these videos, so let me know what you think. I'll see you next week, folks. Thanks for watching.